Alright guys, welcome back. I've been super excited to get a video of a pretty good road trip, and unfortunately the longest one I've been on ended up being for my wife and I's anniversary, so we didn't get a whole lot of video during the trip, and honestly it wasn't too eventful as far as getting a big long video. I'll have to try to do something later. But unfortunately there was a pretty traumatic experience for us on the trip. I kind of just want to get that out of the way to start with. But yeah, I'm definitely just thankful. I don't know, for a lot of things. But I guess long story short, after the last video when I put the locker in the back, I put about 500 miles on the truck and we went ahead and took it on. It was almost an 8-hour trip round all the way, so over 8 hours with our weekend of travel. And yeah, on the way back, it appears that I did not get my lug nuts tightened after that locker install, and I put them in with an impact, but I always go back and check with my torque wrench, and I did not, which I guess is just only human. But as you can see here, the aftermath is pretty bad. No, unfortunately, it came off going down a hill in a curve, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not much of a preacher or anything, but the truck went completely sideways at about 60 mile an hour, and I don't know that I had any control of what it was doing. The back end was not coming around at all, and we were headed for the ditch. Um, but something happened. Like I say, I don't know, but somebody else was in control there because the truck straightened out and I made it into the ditch without rolling the thing, which is honestly, in the circumstance, it seemed almost unbelievable. I just have a picture of it here in the ditch with the tire off. Anyway, just to finish up with that, I was able to, after a really long wait for a tow truck because I had forgot a jack, I went ahead and just had the truck towed to a Napa and got some new lug nuts put in it because they all sheared off, and we finished the trip. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way off the bat. It was very not a good ending to the trip, but we did make it home safe, and I am counting my blessings for that. The fender does have some permanent damage, but other than that, I had zero issues with the truck. It was over 500 miles total, and that included only one fill up. So that's the only downside. I don't get to show you guys a whole bunch of fuel mileage stuff, but I do want to go over. I've got kind of a map here of where I went. All right, so here's the map pulled up here, and if you're not familiar with Wyoming and Colorado, this is kind of the southeast portion of Wyoming down into the center of Colorado, going through Denver there. And then we went west up into the mountains, which, again, if you aren't familiar with the Colorado mountains, that is a huge elevation climb. I'm about 5,000 feet up there at my house, and we dropped down into the 4,000s between Cheyenne and Denver there. But it's a little crazy. We actually pop up over 11,000 feet before we get to Breckenridge there, which is our final destination, the red pin. Um, that is just crazy. There's a lot of 6% grades, and we actually go up and down a whole bunch going through that I-70 pass there, and it's a little nerve-wracking for sure, and a big test for the diesel Toyota here. So I was pretty excited to do all this, and it did turn into a great trip. So overall, I'm very pleased with the outcome. Um, but just to kind of give you guys an idea, going down I-25 there, clear to Denver, I pretty much had the cruise set on 80 the whole time. Once you get into Denver, obviously traffic in the big city messes you up, so that was a lot more 70, 75, and sometimes 85 if that's what the traffic did. But then once we got into the mountains, most of the speed limits dropped to 65, but I was overall just ecstatic with the performance of the TDI in this thing. I pretty much set the cruise on 65. I would run it in fourth gear just because that does get the RPMs pretty low with how big of tires I have. So right around 3,000 RPM at 65, 70. This thing just purred up every one of those 6% grades. I passed a lot of vehicles, and probably the most epic one was I definitely passed the exact same era truck, I'm guessing with a 22 RE, and it was just screaming at, if I had to guess, 50 mile an hour. And I had the cruise set on, I want to say 68, and just flew right by him like he was standing still. And that was pretty pretty pleasing moment of the trip there. Just makes this swap totally worth it. Um, because yeah, if any of you guys know, the 3.0 isn't really much better. In fact, a lot of people say the 22 RE can outperform it sometimes. So anyway, we put about 455 miles on the truck before I filled up, and that took about 16.2 gallons. So I had a couple more gallons left in the tank, but that was just where we filled up at. And couldn't have quite made the whole trip on one tank, but that still was about 28 miles a gallon in some pretty extreme conditions. Like I say, I mean, the grades and just the speed on the interstate for most of the trip was pretty fast, and again, the gas engine wouldn't have even gone the speeds we were going most of the time. So to have that kind of mileage and cruising as fast as I wanted to go, I was just overall very pleased with this trip. And so yeah, I want to get that information out there for you guys. And here's a few clips of just Breckenridge in the snow. It's a pretty sweet place to check out in the wintertime. And unfortunately, we have the Dakota back on the lift. The recessed bolts I used to hold the two adapter plates together did not work. As you can see, the carnage is pretty severe. It really does a number on it because the flex plate is maybe not even an inch away from here. And I have a feeling that the tapered bolts, I couldn't get the holes the way they needed to be to seat properly because they were already messed up from the first bolts that sheared off. And so just kind of turned into a mess there. But I decided, rather than filling in all the holes and trying to reset with the countersink drill bit type holes and everything. I'm kind of just done messing with this thing, so I went ahead. I had a shop in town weld the two pieces together. So it is one unit now. Once it's clocked, there's really no need to move it again, so it does make sense. The only downside is if the heat does anything to the centering of the plate or warping it or something, but I checked everything. It looks really, really square still. I think they did a pretty good job keeping the heat down. I mean, they definitely didn't melt the paint off or anything, so not that there's much paint left. But you can tell it didn't get super hot, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And the only other downside to this is the bolt holes to the block. I had to go ahead and drill holes so that I can drop these type of bolt right through, and I'll use those to mount the plate to the engine. So we're gonna put it together like that. I don't know. I haven't really looked at this because I haven't seen the newer kits that come for an automatic. I'm guessing that they do the countersink holes. I'd have to ask or maybe talk to somebody that's gotten one from them. But like I say, at this point, my holes are pretty well trashed, so it was going to be a lot of work to get this thing to a point where I could secure bolts in it. And I've had it apart 3 times now for these bolts, so I'm kind of over it. So anyway, we are about ready to throw this thing back together. It's going to be kind of hard to see here, but I hadn't had a transmission cooler. Well, I had this junk beat up one laying up there just to kind of do something, but I'm trying to avoid going up to the front with the cooler lines for the tranny. So they make these pretty cool thermostats that bypass the cooler until they reach 180 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot, put that in line with the cooler. And then I got this pretty sweet aftermarket cooler here. It's pretty big and it just fits in there. The transmission's got it, or the T-case has to go forward. There'll be some space there. And we're going to give that a shot and just see how that works to keep the lines nice and short. So anyway, that's about all the changes I'm doing there. So yeah, between the Toyota losing a tire and the Dakota adapter plates getting loose, I haven't had a very good couple weeks for the TDI swaps, but figured I'd just let you guys know this is the daily life of driving everything TDI swapped. There's definitely issues to be had, but the tire really wasn't the swap's fault. That was all on me. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I should have the Dakota in to get gears put in it, and then that's going to be a whole different experience driving that thing. So stay tuned for that. Should be pretty soon. Thanks for watching.